The gavel was about to fall, and Matteo Vance couldn't stop smirking. He was about to divorce the mousy, charity case wife he'd grown to despise. He'd mocked her worn-out shoes, her cheap coffee, and her complete lack of ambition. In his mind, he was trading in a rusty old bicycle for a brand-new Ferrari. His new girlfriend, Claire. He'd get the apartment, the car, and his freedom. He expected his wife, Eva, to walk away with nothing. What he didn't know was that the judge sitting before him wasn't just a judge. She was the executor of an estate, and his poor wife, she was the $53 billion secret. The apartment smelled of two things: Matteo's $200 a bottle Oud Imperialis cologne and Eva's cheap, lemon-scented bleach. The 2 scents were at war, a perfect summary of their marriage. Matteo Vance stood in front of the hallway mirror, adjusting the knot of his silk tie. It was a Brioni, or at least a very convincing replica he'd bought online. Appearance was everything at Stratton Price Investments. You didn't just show success, you wore it. "Are those my cufflinks?" he snapped, not even looking at Eva, who was packing his lunch in the cramped kitchenette. Eva paused. She was wearing a simple grey t-shirt and faded jeans. Her honey-blonde hair was pulled back in a simple, practical ponytail. "They were on your dresser," she replied, her voice soft. "Right where I left them. I was planning to wear them, Eva. Now they probably smell like whatever that is." He gestured vaguely at her lunchbox. "Tuna fish." "It's egg salad, Matteo, and I washed my hands." He scoffed, turning to face her. The look on his face was one he reserved only for her. Pure, unadulterated disappointment. "Egg salad, of course. You know Claire, from accounting. She brings sushi for lunch. Real, hand-rolled sushi from Nobu. That's what successful people eat." Eva quietly closed the Tupperware lid. "We can't afford trustworthy, Matteo. We talked about this. Your last car payment was late. It was the wrong thing to say." Matteo's face flushed a deep, ugly red. He strode into the kitchen, his polished shoe tapping impatiently on the cracked linoleum. "My car payment," he hissed, "would not be late if my wife contributed anything. Anything at all. What did you make last month at that pathetic little coffee shop? $400 in tips? Bravo, Eva. You've almost covered our water bill." "It's a job, Matteo. It's an embarrassment." He slammed his leather briefcase onto the counter. "I'm trying to make partner. I'm networking with men who summer in the Hamptons, and my wife smells like burnt coffee beans and desperation. Do you have any idea how that makes me look? They all ask what my wife does. Oh, I have to say, she's in hospitality. I have to lie just to save face." "You don't have to lie," she whispered, her eyes fixed on the counter. "Yes, I do. What should I say? My wife is a barista at the Silver Bean Cafe? The one with the broken sign out front? You have no ambition, Eva. You have no family, no connections, no money. You came into this marriage with 2 suitcases and a pile of student debt you couldn't even pay. I gave you a life." "You gave me a life," she repeated, the words tasting like ash. It was his favorite refrain. He saw the flicker of defiance in her eyes and decided to crush it. He grabbed her left hand, his grip uncomfortably tight. "Look at this. This ring. I put this on your finger. And what have you given me? Nothing. You're just poor. You think poor, you act poor. You are poor. You're an anchor, and I'm done drowning." He released her hand, grabbed his briefcase, and straightened his tie. "I'll be home late. Don't wait up. And for God's sake, air this place out. It stinks of poverty." The door slammed shut, leaving Eva alone in the silence. She stood motionless for a full minute, the smell of bleach and expensive cologne battling for dominance. Finally, She walked to the small, scratched-up nightstand by her side of the bed. She opened the drawer and pulled out a simple, old-fashioned flip phone. Not the sleek smartphone Matteo demanded she carry. It's an antique, Eva, it's humiliating. But a burner. She speed-dialed a single number. A man's voice, crisp and professional, answered on the first ring. "Yes?" "Mr. Langley," Eva said, her voice no longer soft or mousy, but cold and clear as glass. "It's me. He's getting worse. He mentioned Claire again. He's preening, which means he's about to do something rash." "We are prepared, Miss Hayes," the voice replied. "The timeline remains firm. The 5-year trust stipulation expires at 11:59 p.m. on October 23rd. Not a second sooner." "I know," Eva said. I'm tired of the egg salad, Arthur." There was a moment of silence. "I understand. But your father's will was explicit. You had to live this life, on your own terms, with no outside support. You had to know what it was like. You had to find someone who loved Eva Vance." A pause. "You just happened to find him?" "Yes, I did." She looked at the cheap, 1-carat total weight ring on her finger. A ring Matteo constantly complained had put him in debt, though she knew he'd bought it on a clearance sale. "He's planning to leave me. I can feel it. He's just lining up his ducks." "Let him," Mr. Langley said. "The arrogant always build their own gallows. Just hold on. 2 more weeks." Eva disconnected the call and put the phone away. She looked at the half-made egg salad sandwich on the counter. She picked it up, walked to the trash bin, and dropped it in. She wasn't hungry. The papers arrived a week later. Not by a process server, which would have at least afforded her a sliver of dignity, but by Matteo himself. He tossed the thick manila envelope onto the kitchen table while she was reading a library book. "You're being served," he announced, loosening his tie. He was trying to look somber, but his eyes were bright with a predator's excitement. Eva looked up from her book, The Meditations of Matteo Aurelius. "Served?" "Divorce papers, Eva. It's over. I can't do this anymore. We're on different paths. I'm on an escalator, and you're not even in the building." She opened the envelope. Her hands were steady. Inside, the petition was brutal. He was filing on grounds of irreconcilable differences, and he was demanding everything. The apartment, which was a rental, but he wanted sole possession. The car, the leased BMW, all the furniture, which was mostly cheap particle board, and he was explicitly petitioning that she be awarded no alimony, due to the short duration of the marriage and the defendant's willful underemployment. This was drafted by Brianna Nash, Eva observed, her voice quiet. Matteo's eyebrows shot up. "You've heard of her?" "She's a shark, Matteo, the most expensive, bloodthirsty divorce lawyer in the city. How can you possibly afford her?" "My bonus came through," he lied, puffing out his chest. "When you're a winner, you hire winners. I want this done fast, and I want it done clean. My lawyer, Brianne, she's already drawn up a settlement offer. It's inside." Eva found the 2-page document. It was simple. Eva Vance would walk away with her personal clothing, any gifts given to her prior to the marriage, which was nothing, and a one-time lump sum payment of $5,000. In exchange, she would waive all future claims to any of Matteo's assets, income, or retirement accounts. $5,000 to erase 5 years of her life. 5 years of insults, of being called worthless, of making herself small to feed his fragile ego. "It's a very generous offer," Matteo said, leaning against the wall. "That's... what? More than you make in 3 months? It's enough to get you a bus ticket back to wherever it is you came from. Some diner town in Oregon, wasn't it?" Ava slowly folded the paper. I need a lawyer. Matteo laughed. A loud, barking laugh. A lawyer? On what? Your latte tip budget? Who are you going to get? Some ambulance chaser from a bus stop bench? Don't be stupid, Ava. Take the deal. It's the best you're going to get. I'll think about it, she said. Think fast, he snapped. The offer is only good for 48 hours. After that, we go to court, and I promise you, Brienne will make sure you walk away with nothing but the lint in your pockets. Sign it. No. The word hung in the air. No? No, Matteo. I won't be bullied. I will get my own counsel. His face darkened. Fine. Be a fool. Waste your tiny savings on some public defender. I'll see you in court. And when you're homeless, don't come crying to me. He stormed into the bedroom and slammed the door. The next morning, Ava left the apartment and took the subway to a part of town Matteo would never visit. It was an older district, filled with brick buildings and small family-owned shops. She found the office she was looking for. Arthur Langley, Esquerza, Wills, Trusts and Estates. The office was modest, up a flight of dusty stairs. The man himself, Arthur Langley, looked more like a college professor than a lawyer. He wore a rumpled tweed jacket, had kind, crinkling eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, and a full head of greying hair. He was, in fact, the former head of corporate law at Covington and Sterling, one of the most powerful law firms in the world, and the chief counsel for the Hayes Blackwood Trust. He's offering $5,000, Eva said, sliding the paper across the desk. Arthur read it. A small, dry smile touched his lips. Mr. Vance truly believes he's the prize in this marriage. He's hired Brienne Nash. Ah, yes, Ms. Nash. She's all teeth and no substance. She'll be loud, but she'll be careless. She'll assume you're exactly what you appear to be. That's the point, Eva said. I need you to file a response. Reject the offer. And I need a court date. I've already looked at the family court docket, Arthur said, pulling a file toward him. It's crowded, but there's an opening on October 24th, in Judge Evelyn Reed's courtroom. Eva smiled. Judge Reed. How convenient. I thought you'd appreciate it, Arthur said. Judge Reed was, as you know, your father's oldest friend and the appointed executor of his will. She is the only person, besides myself, who knows the terms of the trust, and that the 5-year anonymity clause expires the day before. So on October 24th, in her courtroom, I will no longer be Ava Vance, penniless barista. You will be Eleonora Hayes, sole heir to the Hayes Blackwood fortune, worth, as of this morning's market open, approximately $53 billion. Ava took a deep breath. Good. File the rejection. Tell Ms. Nash we'll see her in court. We'll be countersuing for a full and fair division of all marital assets. When Brienne Nash received the rejection, she called Matteo immediately. She's rejecting the $5,000, she said, annoyance in her voice. Matteo was furious. Then we crush her. We crush her. She's hired some no-name lawyer, an old fossil named Langley, Nash said. He's countersuing for full division of assets. It's laughable. Don't worry, Matteo. We'll drain her non-existent bank account in discovery. By the time we get to court, she'll be begging to take the $5,000. Good, Matteo said, hanging up. He immediately texted Claire. Dinner at Per Se tonight. The anchor is trying to fight back. It's adorable. The deposition was held in a sterile, windowless conference room at Brienne Nash's firm. The firm, Nash & Galloway, was a high-rise palace of glass and steel designed to intimidate. Matteo was there, looking smug in a new suit. Eva sat opposite him, wearing her nicest and only blazer, a $40 find from a thrift store. Arthur Langley sat beside her, quietly organizing his papers. Brianne Nash paced the room, a predator smelling blood. "Let's get this on the record," she began, her voice sharp. "Ms. Vance, is it Vance? You have no middle name? No family?" "My name is Eva Vance," Eva said calmly. "And where did you work prior to your marriage to my client?" "I was a student." "A student? And what did you study?" "English literature." "Ah," Nash smiled, a thin reptilian expression. "So no marketable skills. And did you complete this degree?" "No, I ran out of money." "You ran out of money. So you came into this marriage with what exactly? Student debt and a half-finished useless degree?" "Objection," Langley said, his voice mild. "Counsel is badgering and characterizing." "Noted," Nash sneered. "Let's talk about your contributions, Miss Vance. Is it true that in the last calendar year, your total declared income from the Silver Bean Cafe was $28,450, including tips?" "Yes, that's correct." "And my client, Mr. Vance, his income was—" "I believe it was $145,000 plus bonus," Eva said. $145,000, Nash repeated, letting the number hang in the air. "So your income was, roughly, 19% of his." "A fraction. Yet you benefited from the apartment he paid for, the car he leased, the vacations he took you on, correct?" "I cooked every meal," Eva said. "I cleaned the apartment. I managed all the household logistics." "You mean you did chores?" Nash laughed. "You're seeking compensation for chores? This isn't the 1950s, Miss Vance. My client wasn't paying for a housekeeper. He was paying for a life he couldn't afford," Eva said, her gaze steady. Matteo flinched. Nash saw it. "And what do you mean by that?" Nash snapped. "I mean," Eva continued, "that Mr. Vance's expenditures consistently exceeded his income. The BMW lease, the dinners at Per Se and Daniel, the suits, the watches, they were all financed. He's currently carrying over $80,000 in high-interest credit card debt, and the apartment is 2 months behind on rent." The room went dead silent. Matteo's face went from smug to sheet white. How did you know that?" he stammered. "I got the mail, Matteo. I paid the bills. Or at least I tried to. You took the joint account away from me last year. But the foreclosure and delinquency notices still came to the apartment. I just kept them." Langley slid a small stack of unopened, red-stamped envelopes across the table to Nash. Her eyes widened. This was not in her client's file. This is inadmissible," she blustered. "It's pre-discovery, Ms. Nash," Langley said pleasantly. "And it speaks directly to the marital assets you're so keen to protect. It seems the only significant asset here is debt, which," he added, "my client is not willing to split." Nash, thrown off her game, called for a 10-minute recess. She pulled Matteo into the hallway. Eva could hear his raised voice. "She's a liar. She's making it up." When they returned, Nash's demeanor was even more hostile. "So you have no money, no family, no assets. Your husband is in debt. What exactly are you hoping to get from this divorce, Ms. Vance? Blood from a stone?" "I am seeking what is fair," Eva said. "Fair," Nash scoffed. "You'll get the $5,000 and be grateful for it." The deposition ended. As they packed up, Matteo blocked Eva's path. "You think you're smart, don't you?" he seethed. "You think revealing my temporary cash flow problem helps you? You just destroyed any chance of getting a dime. You're a snake, Eva. A poor, pathetic snake." He stormed out. Eva and Langley rode the elevator down in silence. "He's scared," Langley noted. "And so is Nash. They assumed you'd be a pushover. They'll be even more aggressive now." "I know," Eva said. "He'll do something to hurt me." Her prediction came true 2 days later. She returned to the apartment to find the front door unlocked. Matteo was supposed to be at work. When she walked in, her heart stopped. Matteo was there, but he wasn't alone. Claire, the woman from accounting, was with him. They were drinking wine from the good glasses, the ones Ava had bought. Claire was sleek, blonde, and dressed in a red silk dress that probably cost more than Ava's monthly salary. "Oh," Claire said, a smirk playing on her lips. "She's still here. Matteo, darling, I thought you said the pest was being fumigated." "Ava," Matteo said, not even bothering to look ashamed. "Claire and I are just sorting through some things, since you'll be moving out soon." Claire wandered into the bedroom, her wine glass swaying. "God, this place is so brown. We'll need to redo everything." She stopped at Ava's nightstand. On it sat a small, simple wooden box. It was unadorned, dark cherry wood, and looked old. "What's this? Your hope chest?" Claire giggled, reaching for it. "Don't touch that," Ava said, her voice dropping to a deadly low. "Ooh, feisty," Claire said. She picked it up and, accidentally, sloshed her red wine onto it. "Oops, clumsy me. Well, it's just a bit of junk anyway, right?" Something in Eva snapped. She crossed the room in 2 strides and ripped the box from Claire's hand. She shoved the other woman back, hard. I said, "Don't touch it." Claire stumbled, feigning shock. "Matteo, she pushed me. Your crazy, poor white trash wife assaulted me." Matteo grabbed Ava's arm. "What the hell is wrong with you? It's a stupid box. Claire is our guest." "Get her out of my house," Ava said, her eyes blazing. "Your house?" Matteo shoved her back. "This is my house, and you're out. I'm changing the locks. Get your junk and go." "Fine." Ava grabbed a duffel bag from the closet, stuffed in a few changes of clothes, and carefully wiped the wine off the wooden box, placing it inside the bag. "Protecting your treasures?" Matteo mocked. "What's in there, Ava? Your collection of bottle caps? Your secret stash of tips?" Ava zipped the bag. She walked to the door and paused, looking back at Matteo and Claire. Claire was already nestled in Matteo's arms, looking triumphant. "You're making a terrible mistake, Matteo," Ava said. "No," he replied, kissing Claire's temple. "I'm correcting one." Ava left. She didn't go to a friend's house. She had no friends. Her father's test had required total isolation. She went to a cheap motel by the highway, the kind that charged by the week. She sat on the lumpy bed, opened the wooden box. Inside was a single worn photograph of a man with kind eyes and a wide smile, his arm around a teenage Ava on a sailboat. And behind the photo, a simple, heavy, old-fashioned steel key. She called Langley. "He's kicked me out. He's with the other woman. I'm at the Starlight Motel." "Are you all right, Miss Hayes?" "I will be," she said, her hand closing around the key. "The court date is in 5 days. October 24th. It's time to stop being Eva Vance." The 5 days leading up to the court date were a study in contrasts. Matteo Vance was living in a state of manic triumph. With Eva gone, Claire had all but moved in. They went out every night, running up his credit cards even further. He was celebrating his freedom. He'd walk into court. His high-powered lawyer would swat Ava's ambulance chaser aside. The $5,000 offer would be enforced, and he'd be free. "She's bluffing," he told Claire over champagne at 11 Madison Park. "She's got nothing. She's just trying to scare me into offering her more. But I'm not giving that leech another cent." "She's probably in some women's shelter right now," Claire said, reapplying her lipstick. "It's where she belongs. You, my love, belong right here." Brianne Nash, meanwhile, was preparing for a swift execution. She'd filed a motion to dismiss Eva's counterclaim, citing a total lack of evidence of any marital assets. She had character witnesses, Matteo's colleagues, ready to testify that Eva was reclusive, strange, and unambitious. She sharpened her claws, ready to tear Eva apart on the stand. On October 23rd, the day before the hearing, Matteo woke up energized. He ironed his best shirt. He shined his best, bonded leather shoes. He sent Eva one last text message. Last chance. Take the 5 kedi, or walk away with less than nothing. Your choice. She did not reply. Stubborn till the end, he muttered, and went to work, whistling. That same day, Eva Vance woke up at 5 a.m. at the Starlight Motel. The room smelled like stale smoke and industrial cleaner. She showered, put on her familiar uniform of jeans and a t-shirt, and packed her duffel bag. She left the key on the desk and walked out. But she didn't take a bus. A black, unmarked sedan, a late-model Audi A8, was waiting for her at the corner. Arthur Langley was in the back seat. He nodded as she got in. "Good morning, Miss Hayes. Are you ready?" "More than," she replied. They didn't drive to his dusty office. They drove downtown to the financial district. They pulled into a private underground garage beneath a soaring tower of black glass, the headquarters of Covington and Sterling. Langley led her to a private elevator. It required his keycard and a thumbprint scan. The elevator opened directly into a stunning corner office on the 60th floor, with a 180-degree view of the city. "Your father's old office," Langley said. "We've kept it for you." It was a far cry from the cramped, linoleum-floored kitchen she had shared with Matteo. Waiting inside was a team of people, a severe-looking woman with a measuring tape, a tailor from Savile Row, a man with a leather briefcase, the head of security for the Hayes Blackwood Corporation, and 2 other partners from the law firm. "Eleonora," said one of the lawyers, a man named Peters, bowing his head slightly. "It is wonderful to finally meet you." For the next 8 hours, Eva Vance was erased. She was briefed on the financial status of the corporation. She was given security protocols. Her new phone was activated. Her new credit cards, unlimited, were issued. The tailor fitted her for 3 bespoke power suits, one of which, a deep navy blue wool, was ready for her to wear tomorrow. At 4 p.m., she sat at the massive mahogany desk. A stack of documents was placed before her. "The time is 4:01 p.m., October 23rd, Langley said, his voice formal. "The 5-year probationary term of the Hayes Blackwood Trust, as stipulated by the last will and testament of Alastair Hayes, will expire in just under 8 hours. These documents are the final transfer of executorship from Judge Evelyn Reed to you. Upon your signature, you assume full, unconditional control of the trust and all its holdings." Eva picked up the pen. Her hand was steady. She signed Eleonora Hayes, a signature she hadn't used in 5 years. "It's done," Langley said, a rare smile on his face. "Welcome back, Miss Hayes." Eva stood and walked to the window. The city looked different from up here. She could see the building where Stratton Price Investments was located. She could see the block where her cheap apartment was. "Mr. Langley," she said, her voice now resonating with an authority that had been suppressed for half a decade. "Please have the asset disclosure updated. I want the full portfolio, down to the last cent, filed with Judge Reed's clerk first thing in the morning." "It's already prepared," he said. "And," she added, "please dispatch a security team to the penthouse at 15 Central Park West, the one my father kept. I'll be moving in tonight. I'd like the locks changed." She reached into her bag and pulled out the old wooden box. She took out the heavy steel key. "Matteo always thought this was for a storage unit with my poor family's old junk. He never realized it was the key to the private elevator." "He will," Langley said. "Yes, he will." She turned from the window. The transformation was complete. The mousy barista was gone. In her place stood a billionaire heiress, and she was ready for court. The next morning, Family Court, Division B, was buzzing. It was a standard, windowless room, but today it felt charged. Matteo arrived early, flanked by Brianne Nash. He was wearing his power red tie. He looked confident, rested, and ready for victory. He scanned the gallery, and his smirk widened when he saw Claire slip into the back row, giving him a subtle wave. "This will be quick," Nash whispered to him, her briefcase snapping open. "We'll be out of here by 10:30. At 9 a.m. on the dot, the doors opened. Arthur Langley walked in, carrying his same rumpled leather satchel. Matteo snorted. "Look at him. He probably took the bus here." Then Ava walked in, and Matteo's smirk faltered. It wasn't just that she was wearing a suit. It was a suit that Matteo, a connoisseur of fakes, knew instantly was real. It was known as a bespoke navy blue suit. It fit her perfectly, its lines sharp and severe. Her hair wasn't in a ponytail. It was in a sleek, professional chignon. She wore simple pearl earrings and low black leather heels that clicked with an expensive, authoritarian sound on the tile floor. She didn't look like Ava Vance. She looked formidable. "What the hell?" Matteo muttered. "She rent that?" "Quiet," Nash hissed, her own eyes narrowing. "It's just a scare tactic, a cheap suit from Macy's." Ava and Langley took their seats. She did not look at Matteo. She did not look at Claire. She looked straight ahead at the judge's bench. "All rise." Judge Evelyn Reed entered. She was an older woman, perhaps 60, with a sharp intelligence in her eyes and an air of no-nonsense authority. She sat, adjusted her robes, and looked over the case file. Case 2025 F1109, Vance v. Vance, a petition for divorce. Ms. Nash, you're representing the petitioner, Mr. Vance. Mr. Langley, the respondent. Ms. Vance. Yes, Your Honor, they both replied. "I see a settlement offer of $5,000, which was rejected," Judge Reed said, "and a motion to dismiss the counterclaim. Ms. Nash, please begin." Brianne Nash stood, her voice resonating with manufactured confidence. "Your Honor, this is a simple, straightforward case. My client, Mr. Vance, is the sole earner in this marriage. The respondent, Ms. Vance, brought nothing into this union. No assets, no family, no significant income. She was, for all intents and purposes, a dependent. She went on for 10 minutes, painting Ava as a freeloader, a willfully underemployed woman who was now trying to extort her hard-working husband. My client's offer of $5,000 is beyond generous. It is charity. We ask the court to enforce the settlement, grant the divorce, and dismiss the respondent's frivolous counterclaim." Judge Reed listened patiently. "Thank you, Ms. Nash. Mr. Langley, your response?" Arthur Langley stood. He seemed to transform, the professorial slouch gone, replaced by the ramrod-straight posture of a senior partner. "Your Honor, we reject the settlement, and we agree with Ms. Nash on one point. This is a simple case. It's about a fair division of marital assets." "What assets?" Nash scoffed. "The credit card debt?" "Mr. Langley," Judge Reed interrupted, "this court received a filing from your office at 8:01 a.m. this morning. An amended declaration of marital assets. I have to say, in 20 years on the bench, I have never seen anything quite like it." Matteo shifted. "What? What asset?" Nash looked confused. "Your Honor, we didn't receive that. A copy is being provided to you now," Langley said, as a clerk handed Nash a thick, spiral-bound document. Nash flipped it open. Matteo leaned over to look. The first page was a summary page. It had Ava's name on it, and a list of assets. Covington & Sterling Client Trust Account, 550,000 Låsodza. Vanguard Municipal Bond Fund. 88-200,000 Clause Vitals. Real Estate Holdings, Domestic, 4.2b. Real Estate Holdings, International, 2.9b. Securities and Equities, Hayes Blackwood Logistics, 46.1b. Mateo's brain couldn't process the numbers. B? Is that a B? That's a typo. It must be a typo. Tell them, Ava. This is insane. Nash was silent. Her face, which was usually a healthy, spray-tanned bronze, had turned the colour of drywall. She was shuffling the pages, her hands visibly shaking. Your Honour, Nash stammered. This is preposterous. It's a fantasy. This is perjury. My client's wife is a barista. She makes $28,000 a year. This document claims she's worth $50 billion. The entire courtroom, including Claire in the back, gasped. Mateo started to laugh, a high-pitched, nervous sound. 50 billion. Ava, that's a good one. She's lost her mind. Judge Reed removed her glasses and set them down. Her gaze was icy. Mr. Vance, I suggest you stop laughing. This court takes perjury very seriously, which is why I must inform you that this document is not perjury. What? Mateo stopped. Mr. Langley, the judge continued, the name on this file is Eleonora Hayes. Am I to assume your client, Ava Vance, is, in fact, Eleonora Hayes? She is, Your Honour, Langley said. She has been living under an assumed name for the past 5 years as a stipulation of her father's will. Judge Reed nodded, as I am well aware. Mateo's blood ran cold. What? What do you mean you're aware? Judge Reed looked directly at Mateo. Her voice was cold. Mr. Vance, your wife is indeed Eleonora Hayes, the sole surviving heir of Alistair Hayes, founder and CEO of the Hayes Blackwood Global Corporation. And I am Judge Evelyn Reed, former law partner of Alistair Hayes, and until 11:59 p.m. last night, the primary executor of his will and the Hayes Blackwood Trust. The silence in the courtroom was absolute. It was so quiet that the thud of Brianne Nash's file slipping from her fingers onto the table was audible. Mateo Vance was frozen. His mind was a high-speed collision of conflicting thoughts. Hayes Blackwood, the logistics giant, the blue and silver trucks, the shipping containers, Alistair Hayes, the billionaire recluse who died 5 years ago. He looked at Ava. Not his mousy, poor Ava, but this person in a suit that cost more than his car. No, he whispered. No, it's a lie. It's a trick. It is no trick, Mr. Vance, Judge Reed said, her patience clearly gone. 5 years ago, Alistair Hayes passed away. His will contained a unique character clause. His daughter, Eleonora, to whom he was leaving his entire $50 billion fortune, was to be protected from the very thing he despised, fortune hunters. Men, Mr. Vance, exactly like you. Ava's gaze finally met Mateo's. It was not sad. It was not angry. It was analytical, like a scientist studying an insect. The will stipulated, Judge Reed continued, that Eleonora had to disappear, live for 5 years under an assumed name with no access to her family's wealth. She had to hold a job, live on less than $40,000 a year, and build a life of her own. This was to ensure she understood the value of hard work and could identify genuine character. The 5-year period expired yesterday, October 23rd. As of midnight, she is legally recognized as Eleonora Hayes, and the trust assets, now totaling $53.4 billion, are hers. Mateo was hyperventilating. The numbers were too big. 53 billion. Then, a new thought, a glorious, life-saving thought, struck him. It was so powerful he actually stood up. Marital assets, he said, his voice hoarse. Brianne Nash, seeing her opening, scrambled to her feet. The shark was back. Your Honor, he's right. This is incredible, but the law is the law. Judge Reed, when did she acquire these assets? You just said. She acquired them last night. They were married last night. They are still married today. This isn't an inheritance, it's a trust disbursement. These assets were acquired during the marriage. They are community property. Matteo was grinning now, a wild, crazed look in his eyes. That's right. I'm her husband. I get half. $26 billion. He pointed at Ava. You thought you could trick me. You thought you could hide this. I'm entitled to half of everything. We're rich, Ava. We're rich. I forgive you. Claire in the back was also standing, her face a mask of avaricious joy. She was already spending her cut. Judge Reed looked, almost sympathetically, at Brianne Nash. A valiant effort, Ms. Nash. Your argument regarding community property is, on its face, correct. The assets did transfer to Ms. Hayes's control while she was legally married. Yes, Matteo shouted. However, Judge Reed turned to Arthur Langley. Mr. Langley, do you have anything to add? I do, Your Honor, Langley said. He reached into his rumpled satchel and pulled out a single, leather-bound document. Ms. Hayes, or rather, Ms. Hayes, anticipated this enthusiasm from Mr. Vance. It's why we were so specific about the court date. We had to wait for the trust to mature so that Mr. Vance's true nature would be revealed when he thought he held all the cards. What is that? Nash demanded. What is that paper? This, Langley said, is a post-nuptial agreement signed by Mr. Matteo Vance 3 years ago. Matteo's grin vanished. I never signed a post-nup. I would never. Oh, but you did, Mr. Vance, Langley said, his mild voice cutting through the tension. Do you recall, 3 years ago, when you were desperate to lease that BMW 5 Series? Your credit was, as usual, insufficient. You were denied. Matteo remembered. The humiliation. And then, Langley continued, Eva unexpectedly received a small inheritance of $50,000 from a distant aunt in Oregon who had passed away. Do you recall that? Yes, Matteo said. Her aunt, she got $50K. There was no aunt, Mr. Vance. That was a small, emergency disbursement from the trust, authorized by Judge Reed. It was a test. And you failed. Langley placed the document on the overhead projector. The aunt's lawyers, my firm, required you to sign this document before the $50,000 could be released into your joint account. A formality, we called it. To protect the small family inheritance from any future claims. There it was. Matteo's signature, clear as day. You were so eager to get your hands on that $50,000 for your car down payment, Ava said, speaking for the first time, her voice like a steel blade. You signed it without even reading it. Langley pointed to a specific clause. Paragraph 4, Section B. It reads, in exchange for the sum of $50,000, Matteo Vance hereby waives any and all current and future claims on any and all inheritances, trust funds, or other family-related financial disbursements received by Eva Vance, regardless of when they are received or whether they are acquired during the marriage. The courtroom was silent again. You, Matteo whispered. You tricked me. No, Ava said, standing up to face him. You trapped yourself. You were so blinded by your own greed, so eager to get a paltry $50,000, you signed away your claim on $53 billion. You sold your entire future for a car you couldn't afford. Matteo looked at the judge. Your Honor, this isn't fair. This is fraud. Judge Reed's gavel slammed down, the sound echoing like a gunshot. "It is not fraud, Mr. Vance. It is a legally binding contract that you signed of your own free will in exchange for consideration. It is, perhaps, the single most expensive signature in human history. The post-nuptial agreement is valid. The assets of Eleonora Hayes are her assets, and hers alone." Matteo's legs gave out. He collapsed into his chair, his entire body shaking. He gets nothing?" Brianne Nash whispered, her own career flashing before her eyes. "He gets nothing," Judge Reed confirmed. And then Matteo Vance did the only thing he could. He let out a low, animalistic wail and fainted dead away, sliding out of his chair and onto the courtroom floor. The courtroom erupted into chaos. A bailiff rushed over to Matteo. Claire, in the back row, looked at the unconscious man on the floor, then at the billionaire heiress at the plaintiff's table. And, in a moment of pure, rat-like self-preservation, slipped out the side door. "Recess!" Judge Reed bellowed. "Clear the court!" Paramedics were called. Matteo was revived with smelling salts, sputtering and gasping on the floor. He was helped back into his chair, his face a grotesque mask of sweat, tears, and ruined pride. He just kept muttering, 50 billion, 50 billion. Brianne Nash, recognizing a total, cataclysmic defeat, was already packing her briefcase. "My client is not in a fit state to continue, Your Honor. We need to—" "You need to do nothing, Ms. Nash," Judge Reed said as she returned to the bench. "The hearing is over. The post-nuptial agreement is ironclad. The divorce is granted on the grounds of irreconcilable differences. All that is left is the division of the actual marital property." Matteo looked up, a tiny, pathetic spark of hope. The apartment, Langley interjected, at 45B Riverview Drive, is owned by a holding company called Starlight Properties. That company is a subsidiary of the Hayes Blackwood Trust. Your rent was part of Ms. Hayes's living stipend. You are to vacate the premises within 24 hours. Security will be there at noon tomorrow to change the locks. The car, the BMW, is leased in your name, Mr. Vance, Langley said. And as my client so helpfully pointed out, you are 2 months behind on the payments. It is, however, all yours. The furniture, you can keep it, Ava said, her first words to him since the reveal. I have no need for particle board. Judge Reed signed the final decree. Ms. Hayes, you are free to go. Mr. Vance, I suggest you find a new lawyer and a new line of work. Ava and Arthur Langley stood. They turned and walked toward the aisle. Matteo, galvanized by a final, desperate surge of adrenaline, lunged from his chair and grabbed her arm. Ava! He cried, his voice cracking. Ellie, baby, wait! I didn't know! It was a test! You were testing me, and I was testing you! I love you! I always loved you! The money doesn't matter. We matter! His grip was tight, his face desperate. He was trying to find the mousy, compliant woman he had married. Eva looked down at his hand on her arm. Then she looked up, meeting his gaze. Her eyes were not filled with hate or even anger. They were filled with a profound, bone-deep pity. You're right about one thing, Matteo, she said, her voice quiet but carrying in the near-empty room. The money doesn't matter. What mattered was the disrespect. What mattered was the cruelty. She slowly, deliberately, unpried his fingers from her arm. You mocked me for my $5 shoes, she said. You mocked my job. You mocked my poverty. But my shoes, Matteo, they were simple, but they were real leather. They were honest. This suit you're wearing, the one you're so proud of, it's cheap, bonded leather, pressed and glued to look like Italian. It's like you. All surface, all fake. No substance underneath. She held his gaze. You called me your anchor. You were right. I was your anchor. I was the only thing keeping your worthless, debt-ridden life from floating away. Now, she turned and began to walk away. Ava, please, he begged, starting to follow her. A large man in a dark suit, her new head of security, stepped in front of him, placing a hand on his chest. That's far enough, sir. Matteo watched, helpless, as Eleonora Hayes, walked out of the courtroom. The heavy doors closed behind her. He was left alone with his now useless lawyer and the bailiff. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out. It was an email from HR at Stratton Price Investments. Subject: termination of employment. Mr. Vance, following an emergency review of your accounts, significant financial irregularities have been discovered, coinciding with reports of an inappropriate relationship with a junior accountant, Ms. Claire Jenkins. Your employment is terminated, effective immediately. Security is packing your personal effects. He was fired. Claire was gone. The apartment was gone. The money was gone. He sank to the floor, outside the courtroom, a man who had held a $26 billion ticket in his hand and traded it for a car. He was left with nothing but the smell of his own cheap, overpowering cologne. Outside, Ava stepped onto the courthouse plaza. The city air felt clean. A black Maybach, not an Audi, pulled up to the curb. Arthur Langley held the door. Where to, Miss Hayes? The penthouse? Geneva? The jet is on standby. Ava paused and looked up at the sky. Let's go to the Silver Bean Cafe, she said. I want to buy it, and I'd like a real cup of coffee. The story didn't just end in the courtroom, it detonated. Within an hour, Eleonora Hayes was the #1 trending topic worldwide. News choppers circled the Covington and Sterling building, desperate for a shot of the billionaire barista. For Matteo Vance, the end came faster than he could have imagined. He stumbled out of the courthouse, dazed, his suit jacket still on the floor where he'd fainted. He made it as far as a dark, third-rate sports bar on a side street, the kind of place he'd never be caught dead in, and ordered a whiskey with shaking hands. The TV in the corner was on a 24-hour business channel, and then her face was on the screen. Not the mousy Ava, but Eleonora. She was stepping out of the Maybach, her navy suit immaculate, her security detail fanning out around her. The story that has Wall Street completely reeling, the anchor said, her voice crisp. Eleonora Hayes, 29, the sole heir to the $53 billion Hayes Blackwood logistics empire, has resurfaced in spectacular fashion. For 5 years, she has been living in total anonymity, working as a barista in a downtown coffee shop as part of an extraordinary character test designed by her late father, Alistair Hayes. A photo of Matteo flashed on the screen. It was an unflattering candid, his mouth open, his eyes red. The ruse was revealed today in a dramatic divorce hearing, where her now ex-husband, junior investment analyst Matteo Vance, discovered his wife's identity for the first time. Just moments after a post-nuptial agreement he'd signed years ago, in exchange for a $50,000 car payment, voided his claim to her fortune. The anchor turned to a panelist. Charles, you can't make this up. He sold a $26 billion claim for a used BMW. The panel erupted in laughter. He didn't just lose the divorce, the panelist chuckled. He lost the history of divorces. This man isn't just a footnote, he's the whole punchline. He's a joke, Matteo slurred, throwing his glass at the TV. It bounced harmlessly off the plexiglass. Hey, the bartender yelled. You pay for that, pal. Put it on my card. Matteo fumbled for his wallet. His hands were numb. He pulled out his Stratton Price corporate Amex, The bartender ran it. Declined. Try this one. His personal visa. Declined. It's a mistake. Run it again. Listen, buddy, the bartender said, his patience gone. Your credit is shot. Get out and leave the jacket. It's Brioni, Matteo protested weakly, but he knew it was a lie. It was a fake. He was a fake. He was thrown out onto the street, his phone buzzing violently. It wasn't HR, it was the bank. The car lease was being called in. The credit card companies were initiating fraud alerts. His entire, carefully constructed house of cards, built on Ava's tiny, secret, steadying income, had collapsed. He looked at his reflection in a dark shop window, a disheveled, terrified man. A fraud who had mocked a queen for not being rich, while he himself had nothing. A blue and silver Hayes Blackwood truck rumbled past, its sheer size blocking out the sun. He sank to his knees on the grimy pavement, a man who had everything and lost it all, because he never understood its value. Meanwhile, Brianne Nash was in her glass-walled office, watching her reputation crumble in real time. Her phone was ringing with calls from partners demanding to know how she'd missed a $53 billion trust. "He didn't tell me," she screamed at her assistant. "He said she was poor." She had been made a fool of, laughed at on national television. Her career as a shark was over. She was the lawyer who fumbled the biggest asset declaration in history. And Claire? She was gone. By the time Matteo's termination email went through, she had already cleared her desk, her LinkedIn profile already set to open to work. The bags Matteo had bought her were in a pile by her door, ready to be sold. She was, like Matteo, a parasite, and her host was dead. Miles above them, in the penthouse at 15 Central Park West, Eleonora Hayes stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows. The city glittered below her, a sea of diamonds. Arthur Langley was with her. "The Silver Bean Cafe has been purchased," he reported. The staff, Maria, Jenna, and Sam, were emotional. The plan to turn it into a staff-owned co-op, with a full college scholarship fund for them and their children, was well received. "Good," Ava said. "They were kind to me when they had no reason to be. They shared their lunches when I forgot mine. That's real wealth." "Mr. Vance has filed for bankruptcy," Langley continued. "As expected, his creditors are carving up what little he has." Ava nodded, her face unreadable. She felt no joy, no triumph, just a quiet, profound sense of closure. The test was over. Her father's strange, cruel, and ultimately wise experiment was complete. "And Ms. Hayes," Langley said, a small smile on his face. "The Alistair Hayes Foundation. The board is ready for your first directive." Ava picked up the old, wine-stained wooden box from her new billion-dollar desk. She ran her fingers over the smooth wood. It had held a picture and a key, reminders of who she was. "I have my first directive," she said, turning to face her city. "I want to find the other Ava Vances, the people with integrity, but no connections, the ones who are told they're poor and worthless by small, loud men, the ones with talent, but no access." She looked at Langley, her eyes as clear and bright as the city lights. "My father wanted me to learn what it was like to have nothing. I did. Now, I'm going to show the world what you can build, when you're anchored by character, not by cash." And so, Matteo learned the hard way that you should never, ever judge someone by their wallet or their worn-out shoes. He mocked his wife for being poor, all while she was the one holding the keys to a kingdom. He was so blinded by his own small-time arrogance that he couldn't see the billion-dollar queen sitting right in front of him. In the end, Eva didn't just divorce him. She foreclosed on his entire life, leaving him with nothing but the debt he'd created. What did you think of Matteo's epic downfall? Was Eva's test the perfect revenge? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. If you love stories about justice and hidden identities, make sure to hit that like button. Share this video with a friend who loves a good twist. And please, subscribe to the channel. We have new stories coming every week, and you won't want to miss them.